Hello, welcome to the Ascent of Mount Carmel YouTube channel. This is the channel where we discuss the book Ascent of Mount Carmel by St. John of the Cross. Today we're on the second book, 19th chapter, and we're doing the second part of it. In the last installment we discussed how even if visions are true and they do come from God, we may still be deceived from them because of the defective way in which we understand them. If you're as old as I am, you probably remember that back in 1970, there was a guy named Hal Lindsey, and he wrote a book called The Late Great Planet Earth. The book was Lindsey's attempt to flesh out and put a timeline to biblical prophecy. The book was extremely popular, and they even made a movie out of it with Orson Welles as the narrator. Now, Lindsey never really had any hope of being accurate with his predictions, since he was including false concepts such as the rapture in his timeline. And the USSR was also featured prominently in his end-time scenario. Lindsey then wrote a sequel called Countdown to Armageddon, where he said that the decade of the 1980s could very well be the last decade of history as we know it. Well, that didn't happen, so he wrote Planet Earth 2000 AD, and that was published in the 1990s. And in that book, he said that we shouldn't plan to still be on Earth by the year 2000. And Lindsey is still going at it, and he regularly puts out videos where he interprets current events through the perspective of his latest timeline. And he keeps adjusting his timeline as current events change. Now, Lindsey, of course, has spawned some clones, such as this guy.
Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I am your host, William Tapley, also known as the Third Eagle of the Apocalypse and the co-prophet of these end times.
In this playlist, I really haven't given a lot of my own opinions because there really isn't much call for it. This playlist actually is just a book report on Ascent of Mount Carmel. However, it seems that by not discussing the issue of Catholic prophecy at this point, we'd be kind of ignoring an 800-pound gorilla that's in the room. This video is an expression of my opinion, and I may be wrong. Feel free to comment below if you disagree. There is a great deal of Catholic prophecy that we'd be foolish to ignore or deny. Foremost are the three secrets of Fatima. They seem different than almost all other prophecy because the revelation was accompanied by a very public miracle, the miracle of the sun. It seems that the Blessed Mother wanted us to take notice. The second reason is the visions were embraced by the Church, at least the preconciliar Church. The third reason is that everything we know about the secrets has either come true or seems to be coming true. The secrets of Fatima don't seem to be dreamy, vague, Nostradamus type of prophecies, but are clear spoken warnings. Fatima isn't the only prophecy that seems to demand serious consideration, and there are other visions such as that of Pope Leo XIII that seem to be coming true now. But at the same time, we know that St. John of the Cross tells us that all prophecy shouldn't be taken literally or at face value. Just because a great saint has a vision doesn't mean that the vision will come true in the way that we understand the vision. We may very well have a defective way of understanding those visions. We shouldn't turn up our noses at the predictions of Hal Lindsey if we are guilty of the same thing. Around the same time that Hal Lindsey came up with his first book, Yves Dupont wrote a book called Catholic Prophecy, The Coming Chastisement. And many traditional Catholics take the writing of Dupont as almost gospel. Dupont looked at 88 prophecies from Catholics, mostly saints, and he noted that many of the prophecies seem to have been fulfilled in the second half of the 20th century. And I certainly don't disagree with him on that. From that point, Dupont then went on to predict future events and developments and developed his own timeline. However, there are two issues regarding his methodology which I take issue with. He weights all 88 prophecies with equal weight regardless of the source. For instance, he devotes an entire chapter to Nostradamus, who, though he was a Catholic, he was not a saint. And Nostradamus' prophecies are very vague and could be interpreted in a number of ways. And the second and most important reason is that Dupont takes all 88 prophecies literally. And we know from St. John of the Cross that prophecy often doesn't unfold in the manner we expect it because of our defective way of understanding it. And I'm certainly not saying that there won't be a coming chastisement. Based on my very limited human understanding, it would seem that God's justice demands it. However, we don't know that it will happen with absolute certainty. And even if a chastisement comes, we don't know if it's going to happen in our lifetime, our children's time, or even our grandchildren's time. God's time is not our time. We need to be vigilant so that we don't get sucked into analyzing visions. This type of activity can actually overtake our spirituality. The time we spend on putting together survival plans for the end of days or coming chastisements, it replaces the time that we would otherwise spend in silent prayer and contemplation. It causes us to become occupied with self-love because it's based on our desire for survival rather than our love of others. When we dwell on the 3 days of darkness and we think about how we're going to survive it, we risk being as self-righteous as some Protestants who just assume they're going to be raptured off the planet before a great tribulation before the end times. A traditional Catholic might go to Latin Mass, might do a litany of all the right things. However, even while doing all these things, there's a danger of becoming as self-righteous as the most obnoxious Calvinist who believes that he was predestined to be saved. Remember that St. Paul instructs us to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. If we look down on Catholics who are Catholic in name only, are we any better off than the Pharisees who felt that they were justified through their fastidious observance of Mosaic law? The problem with the Pharisees was that they did all those right things, but there was no conversion of the heart. For all of these same reasons, it's very important for us to read and internalize Ascent of Mount Carmel. The book is more than just a handbook on how to improve ourselves and to gain wisdom. As we progress, we will be transformed in love. As St. John said in The Dark Night of the Soul, "In the dark night, guided by faith alone, we will join God, lover transformed in the beloved. O guiding light, O night more lovely than the dawn, O night that has united God with his beloved, transforming us in God." Well, I hope you enjoyed this installment. We'll be back again in about a week with the 20th chapter. In the meantime, please pray for the church.
Wonder why they see me. I trust them with everything I had. I done everything. I turned my heart to them with faith and belief in them. And then they get up and deceive me. Now you don't know whether to cut their throat or to cry again.